the first step, of course, is to decide whether or not you really should buy a house.
Which I think a lot of people think of as a given. They just assume I should be a homeowner.
I'm an adult. That's adulting.
That's just like checking the boxes. That's the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a home. I'm going to get a dog. Like, maybe a spouse, somewhere in there. We'll interlace this with Sean's episode. But I think the first question is, should homeowning be in your immediate future or something that you aspire to? And I don't know that the answer to that is definitely yes. I think homeownership gives you a couple protections. One, against the inflation in housing. If you've been a renter, you get that letter that goes, rent's going up. And we just know that inflation is going to pass through so many different items, but I think you're kind of locking in that cost of the home, and your tax bill still may go up as your assessment goes up. But for the most part, you're kind of securing that cost of the home that you're going to be in, and kind of protecting yourself from that. People talk a lot about the growth of real estate as an asset. Fun fact, do you guys know the actual real estate growth rate at a national level for homes?
So the stats we've used in the past were stats from David Blanchett from Morningstar saying, once you factor in all the costs of ownership, like taxes and repairs, it's like inflation or a percentage point above inflation.
Yeah, it's like 3.1.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. It's a very unexciting number.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're in a market like a San Francisco or somewhere that home prices have been skyrocketing and have done so for a decade or more, you may think that I'm nuts when I say that. But home prices, at least at the national level, are not this big, exciting, go straight up really quickly sort of asset. But you don't have to put all the money into it either. To use really simple math, if you buy a $500,000 home and you put $100 down, the home price goes up by 3%. You've made a pretty good return on your $100 that you put in, because you're borrowing most of that money from the bank. And so I think you do get some leveraged upside. But in the short term, the things that can go wrong are brutal.
Yeah.
They're brutal. And I think we've got some fun stories, hopefully, that we can share of some things that have,
in quotes,
fun, as you smile through the pain. But I think every homeowner has gone through some of these things of just stuff going wrong that you don't plan for. And also the frictional cost of moving in and out of a home means that it needs to be a long-term decision. If you're buying a home and you don't think that you're going to be staying put in that spot for at least 5 years, I think you're probably making a mistake. Just the real estate commissions, the mental effort to find and to get into the transaction, and the lost time maybe at work of spending all the time on this stuff, it's just it's a lot.
The amount you spend on getting your house ready for sale, and then there's the inspection and the things you have to fix after the inspection. It's a lot of money. Selling
a home is another episode, which I'm also going to do. So I don't want to go too far down that path.
Save it for next week. Yeah. Next month.
All right, got it.
But yes, exactly. I think there's a lot of frictional cost when you look at it, and so if owning a home is your American dream, I think you need to want to be in that place for a while, and you really need to be financially prepared. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that.
All right, yeah, let's talk about that. How do you make sure that you are financially ready to buy a house?
Okay. So I think most people think of the housing purchase in the component of a monthly expense. They think about their rent, and then they look at what can I afford relative to that. So first of all, if you're going up, if you assume that your mortgage payment's going to be more than your rent, start making that payment right now. And I don't mean paying extra in actual rent, but start treating your housing payment as if it's more than it is, and committing those extra dollars to savings. I really think that that's the simplest way to figure out what can I afford. Now, I heard that I was mentioned on this show as the anti-budgeter.
It's true. On Financial Health Day, yes.
Yeah. So and I believe that. I really am. I embrace that. I'm not a budgeter where I want to figure out where every line item goes, but I do want to figure out if what's left after I commit to those expenses is enough for me to live my life comfortably. So if you think that you're going to go up by $500 on your payment, start putting that $500 in savings. Don't touch it. And you can still spend the rest and see if that's a comfortable space for you. And I think that does a couple things. Number one is it starts preparing you for a down payment, because now you're accumulating cash. That's all good. And we're kind of stress testing, does our budget support this higher level of payment, even though we haven't committed to it yet? So I think that's kind of one of my first things is start to stress test your budget a little bit to see what can you afford. Because if you go to the mortgage guy, they're going to tell you that you can afford
insane amount of house.
an exceptional amount of house, right? They're going to basically look at what's the most could you borrow that we think you're likely to probably not default, maybe. But if you do, we're going to take your house from you.
But at that point, they've sold you the mortgage anyhow, so it doesn't matter to them.
Exactly. They've made their money. And that's not a knock against mortgage guys. I don't think that that's an evil industry. They're allowing a lot of great things to happen. But don't look at the number that they show you and go, oh, I can afford it.
It's ridiculous how much you get. We got approved for double what we should probably be living in.
Wow.
It's insane.
It's a lot of money.
Especially our first house. We were like, what? You think we can afford this? And Ron was like, there's no way we can afford this. I'm like, I know. These people really met us? We just gave them everything, and this is what they came back with?
Did you guys read these numbers?
Did you read this? Are you assuming that our only expense is going to be a house? Because it's not really what it's going to be.
Yeah. So I think that's the wrong way to determine the budget.
Yes.
But start figuring out what you can spend by actually doing it. And I think it's got two effects. You stress test your own budget, and you start to save a little bit more aggressively. The other thing is really that your emergency fund needs to be in a bigger spot. So 3 to 6 months is the typical guidance. If you're on the 3 side, I think you probably need to be closer to 6 when you become a homeowner because there's going to be big stuff. Even in a condo, which is what I just came from, I replaced every appliance, most of them not out of choice. Hot water heater, HVAC system, like you name it, dishwashers, it all breaks over time, even if you've got decent stuff in there, and it's going to happen when you don't expect it. So don't get caught out of position and end up in a spot where you're kind of pedaling backwards with credit card debt and everything else. I think you've got to have your savings level higher to go into a home and be able to kind of take the bumps and bruises along the way.
Well, when you're a renter, you just don't think about it, right?
Sure.
You're like, oh, my toilet broke.
Call.
It's a
Email.
call. Oh, that was annoying, but now it's fixed. And I don't know how much it costs to fix a toilet. I wouldn't even begin to know.
Yeah.
It could be $1 million. It's not $1 million. I actually do know about how much it is to fix a toilet. But you like what I didn't when I was in my 20s and when I was renting, and you don't even think about all those costs, and boy, they add up.
Yeah. So a couple of rules of thumb that people will use is you should assume that you'll spend 1 to 2% of the value of the house on annual maintenance. So if you have a $500,000 house, $5,000 to $10,000 a year. Or there's also a square footage rule of thumb. So $1 for every square foot, or $2 if you live in a pricier place. So that just gives you a rough idea of how much you should plan. The thing is, it doesn't happen each and every year. Sometimes you'll go a couple of years without anything, and then poof, you need to replace the roof for $30,000.